Hello and welcome back. This is the second update of the case of the Tin Soldier. We have made a good start, and in this update the first port of call is the French Embassy.
Farney and I spent over a year quartered together in France in War College. We became the best of friends.
Did you know much of the General's personal life at the time?
He always put the rest of us to shame in the matters of love. Said it was because we had no horse face to spur us on.
Did the General have a passion for horses?
Mon Dieu, no. He was engaged to a terribly unattractive woman by the name of Mary Fitch. Behind her back, that's what he called her. Horseface.
How dreadful. Whatever became of her?
She eventually became Mrs. Armstead and brought her great fortune to the marriage. I believe that Farney looked upon his stay in France as his last great fling.
Are you saying that there was no particular woman at the time?
I did not say that. There was one, but I never met her. My little flower, he called her. I remember one night he could not sleep. He was slightly drunk, and he kept rambling on about promises that must be kept and promises that couldn't be. Finally, he collapsed on the bed with such sadness in his eyes I will never forget it. Ma Fleurette, he said.
How very touching. Have you seen much of the General over the years?
We have always maintained our friendship through correspondence, until last week, that is. It was the first time we had seen each other in over 40 years. We had supper, and then went to see the French actor Philippe Arnaud perform. The General commented that my presence beside him while French was being spoken reminded him of the old days.
So your visit went well?
Exceedingly well.
Can you think of anything that might have been troubling him?
No, the General was in excellent spirits. He joked about the upcoming Tontine celebration at the Langham, and he was very enthusiastic about the new information concerning the Polar Star. In fact, this week he was supposed to meet with a countryman of mine about it. It is hard to believe that my good friend is gone.
That was very useful. I do kind of feel sorry for the General's dead wife? They didn't seem to have a marriage made in heaven. But anyway, onwards. We are now visiting the Bridge House Hotel.
How in the world did you hear about it so soon, Mr. Holmes? The body's still warm. Couldn't have happened more than 10 minutes ago.
Body? What body?
Well, the one what's upstairs in 203.
We're here for something else, actually. Looking for Pierre Martin.
Well, that's the very fellow what was done in.
Well, tell me, young man, do you know what transpired?
Well, Mr. Martin checked into the hotel on the 8th. He was a Frenchman. I didn't speak to him much.
Who discovered the body?
I did. Well, I came along to his room to deliver a wire. Here it is, sir.
Information still valuable. See me, Wells, Osborne, Norgate and Company, publishers. Tell me, did you see anyone suspicious hanging about?
No. No, sir. Well, actually, now that I think about it, there was a rather large man with a foreign accent. Russian, I think. He said that he wasn't sure about the address and that he'd only just arrived in London. He asked for Mr. Martin, and I sent him straight up. Well, he was rather well-spoken and well-mannered. I didn't think anything of it at the time. A few minutes later, he came down. He was practically running. I saw him go out the front door and hail a cab.
Was there anything amiss in the room?
I'll say. An inkwell was toppled on its side, left an awful mess on the carpet. Big blue spots and inky footprints right the way to the door. The manager will be in a fret when he sees it. Fortunately, there was no blood.
Perhaps he was strangled.
Oh dear. Our next port of call is Malcolm Fitch.
I admit I strongly disliked Armstead. He was the cad who made my sister's life miserable. I argued at length with my father against the marriage, but to no avail.
But what was your sister's opinion at the time?
Well, unfortunately, Mary was not the attractive sort who had scores of suitors. My father was afraid she'd be left a spinster. The engagement was arranged just before Armstead went to France. During the year he was gone, I had him watched and discovered he was in the thick of some scandal involving a young French girl.
And you told your father?
Well, he wouldn't listen. I even went so far as to give the story to the newspapers. But my father got wind of it and used his influence to prevent its publication. I would have done anything to keep my sister away from that man.
Including murder?
Why, that's preposterous. Well, surely you don't think... I was scheduled to meet with Armstead today. But you see, my wife took ill. I spent the whole morning attending to her here until Dr. Ainstree arrived at around 11 o'clock.
He definitely does not appear to be one of Armstead's biggest fans. Okay, now it's time to visit Sir Jasper Meek.
Can you tell us what did him in, Sir Jasper?
A sword through the heart, a smart upward thrust.
Okay, that was very short and sweet. Well, not exactly sweet. And now, finally, Langdale Pike.
The good general married into a considerable fortune when he took Lord Finch's spinster daughter, Mary, off his hands. Mary's brother, the present Lord Fitch, was opposed to the marriage from the very beginning, and there was still considerable friction between him and the general. But through holdings which the general inherited from Mary, he and his former brother-in-law were in business together. Ah, the ironies of life, eh?
Why do you think Malcolm Fitch was so opposed to the marriage?
Well, I'm not sure, but it had something to do with the general's reputation with the ladies. Of course, this was before my time. Now, I'm not certain he can be of any help to you, but you might want to check with my illustrious predecessor, Mr. Lloyd Shoemaker.
I'll make a note of that.
You know, of course, the general wrote a book about art collectors and included some less than chivalrous details about how a few of them had come by their collections. One man, Carson Cabot, a gem collector, was quite incensed by being so named. In fact, he accosted Armstead and fractured the general's collarbone.
I understand that the general was going to include a chapter on the Polar Star diamond in his revised book. Would you happen to know if Cabot had anything to do with that particular gem?
Well, I can't be certain, but being the collector he is, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't already have it in his possession.
Okay. And we will be sending the irregulars to the Russian embassy. Oh. That's a shame. So we've procured a lot of useful information in this update. And that is that. Voting is open again. Good luck. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.